Hey everyone, welcome to Dose of Truth Tarot with our weekly chat. What are we looking at this week?
I just thought, one of the curiosities is if you ask a question, this is for single card readings. If you ask a question and you get a face card or a court card, what does that mean to you? Or what will that mean? Now, remember, go back over the videos and review that you cannot predict the future. That's not what we're doing with tarot. So if you keep that in mind, you have a better understanding of what a face card would tell you. So, these single card turns, if you just use one card to answer a question or get greater insight into a question, it's very, very limited if you're not psychic. If you haven't got that ability, it's going to be very, very limited to the definition. But we all have a gut. We all have a gut brain. So that gut usually is telling us the answer. We often need to go to someone else, like Eloise and I do it with each other. We'll ask each other a question and ask each other what our gut says, whether it's saying it's a yes or a no or whatever. So yes, it's great to go to someone else. But oftentimes, just practicing with yourself, asking a question. So for example, if you get, I just picked this out before, Princess of Coins. Okay, this is the City Tarot, lovely, beautiful deck. So you could use the image, yes, of course. But what I would go to first is really looking at the light and dark, because we know within every card, the light and dark is held there. Now it can get way more complex because what is light to you might be dark to me. Right? So let's say if you step on my toe as a Canadian, British do this too, you apologize to the person. So you've stepped on my toe and I say, oh my goodness, I'm sorry. And then in another country, let's say you go to and they push you off and they say, get off me. And, how could you do that to me? And you'd be going, oh my God, that's terrible. But they would think that's appropriate in their country. And I would think, no, you don't do that. You apologize even if someone's hurt you. Okay, you'll have different light and dark. Okay, that gets more complex. So you've already got these permutations going on. Then you have your gut that could tell you whether it's the light or dark aspect of the card, depending on where you're from. So again, what is dark to you and light to you is just that for you. Then you have another bit. If you're afraid, the answer will not be the answer you want. It'll likely override the gut response. So you do need to learn a little bit about your gut. The first thing that I do is it's the first answer that comes. If you start talking to yourself and, blah, 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 then it's not going to work, but it has to come from way down deep. If your first answer comes from your head, forget it. It's not going to work. How are you going to know this? Well, as time goes by, the question that you ask and whether it works or not, you can actually train yourself to listen to your gut brain rather than your head brain. So you get a card. So that's a lot of stuff. I mean, that's a course in itself. All right. Yeah. So you get the Queen of the Princess of Coins. Right? So she is Earth. She's the apprentice of Earth. She's not the queen who knows everything about the Earth and she knows how it all functions. She's the apprentice. So she's going to be a little bit flirtatious with the Earth. She's going to play around a bit more, whereas the Queen of Coins is going to get, down to brass tacks. Just giving you a little idea. So here's the princess, and whatever you've asked, you're going to look at it and see, is it that I need grounding, let's say? That could be one of the answers. Or is it that I'm too flighty? Okay, well, those are two sides of the same coin, really, aren't they? So even if it says you're too flighty, then you need grounding. Now, what if it's you are grounded? If you are grounded, then you're grounded in your question. The opposite could be I'm ungrounded. I'm not grounded in the question. So now your gut's going to have to tell you which one feels much stronger to you. If you're afraid of either answer, you're done for. You need to start doing bigger readings, go to someone else, or just practice till you see the outcome, using really simple, straightforward questions, right? Like stuff you can do is, will it rain on Friday? Will I get up at 7:02 a.m.? Will I rise at 4:39 a.m.? Usually my time.
Weirdo.
Weirdo. I go to bed early though. Yeah, it would be good to use the simple questions like that.
Yeah. Will it rain? Yeah, it's just things like that. It's really obvious.
Yeah. What time? You won't be able to ask exactly what time will I rise, because you need to be very sophisticated in your reading to be able to do that. Those of you who can do it, great, go right ahead. But if you're just asking a yes, no, you'd have to say, will I rise Friday at 6:02 a.m.?
Or could you do between 6 and 7 or something like that?
You could narrow it down, or if you could ask the actual times, or you go between 6 and 7, then you could narrow it down because you might know, well, I do usually rise between 6 and 7. So you're already predicting. But here you might want to get the exact minute. Will it be between 6 and 6:30? Mm-hmm. And you get a yes. This would be a yes. Most likely it would be a yes. Sure, you're grounded, 6 and 7. All right, then between 6 and 6:30, and then you ask another card. And then is it between 6 and 6:15? No, and you keep going. But I just wanted to point out that if you keep getting face cards, usually people go, I don't know what to make of that. Well, you'll have to look at, the element and see whether if it's grounded or not. So let's say you got the Princess of Fire, and you said, am I going to rise between 6 and 6:15? Hey, that's a little bit more difficult because it's fiery. It could mean, yeah, you wake up, or it could mean you're way off, man. You're burning. Yeah. You're burning in the wrong direction, or you're burning up. You're going in the right direction. There, you have to start using your gut brain to determine: am I going towards the light or the shadow? Am I going towards I'm burning out my question. It's not the right question. I'm going in the wrong direction. Or, yeah, the sun will be rising and you'll be moving, getting up and doing all those different things. Now, as you become more and more sophisticated, it can be really cool what you start reading. You might be able to have a little psychic ability coming. Like, let's say I say, I'm going to rise between 6 and 6:15 a.m. tomorrow, and the Knight of Fire comes up. I may be able to read that as, my husband's going to wake me up. Oh, if he's going to wake me up, well, I know certain things about myself. I know that he doesn't wake me up. He rarely wakes me up. And if I am asking 6 and 6:15, oh no, I might sleep in and he wakes me up. But you're really going to have to, develop your intuition so that, or not develop your intuition, that's a false statement. You're going to need to listen to your gut brain so that you're seeing immediately man. So it's a man, it's a male. It's male energy. Is it my male energy? No. Is it his male energy? Yes. It happens really fast. But if you have to go through all those questions, it's more viable to keep pulling a card for each of your questions when you're beginning. Did that make sense? Right. So yeah. If I go, well, who's this man? Is it me or someone else? Right? Because the cards don't discern necessarily if it's a male or if it's masculine. right? So if it's masculine, it can be your own masculine energy urging you awake if it's the night of fire. Or it could be somebody else is waking you up, get up, you slept in. Get up, wake up. So you could continue and say, well, is this me or is this somebody else?
Yeah.
All right, so it says it's me. It's my male energy. Okay, so my male energy is going to wake me up between 6 and 6:15. Or it might be the complete opposite. You're going to need a little match under your bum to wake up.
Or in my case, if it's a male energy waking me up, it will be a seagull knocking on the window.
Oh, there you go. Right.
The
birds.
Birds.
Yeah.
Living by the sea.
Yeah, so really simple stuff to you know what, it's simple but complex. If you get it in the into your head that it's very complex, all of the possible definitions within one card, which I'm not going to go through here. You use your little notebooks, or take our class, or keep listening to more videos, go onto our podcast, maybe you'll glean enough information. But using the definitions you have and knowing which one strikes you first. Now, a lot of people use the image, which is fine, as long as it's the first image that strikes you right away without any thinking. But if you're concentrating on the image and you start to create stories out of the image, what can happen is you're superimposing your own mind's ideas onto the card, and that often doesn't work out very well.
Mm.
It really doesn't. It has to be intuition. It's got to be gut. If it's coming from the mind, your mind and your head needs to only be thinking or having consumed all of the information, so it works really well. Then you have to use an aspect of the mind, which is the intellect, to properly question and properly categorize and properly understand what the possibilities are in the card. Like I tell you, light and dark, the earth element. It's this card was a earth element female. The female is really an apprentice. She's in this lifetime not quite becoming the queen. She's not going to be that empire holding person, like who could be the queen of coins, could be the queen of England, right? She's got her empire. Can be someone who's a business owner who's very, very successful in the world, so she could have her empire. But some people can be a princess of coins, have a business, but there's some fluff around it, meaning maybe they don't know all aspects of the business, so they hire different people to help them. Whereas usually when you see the queen at the top of her business, she's got her fingers in all the pies.
She got it sorted.
She knows how many erasers are in the drawers of her secretaries. She knows exactly what's going on everywhere. She's got this, definite bird's eye view, and her feet, you can imagine, are roots. Their roots growing out, going into the earth, and she knows what's going on, right? That's why the queens don't like betrayal. They get all
off with their head. Yeah.
Yeah, because I should know what's going on, right? No matter what element you're in. I doubt the queen of coins would be so rash to say off with your head, but the queen of fire would, lop off the head. And it's the queen of hearts in Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
A woman scorned, right? A woman scorned. Be careful of a woman scorned. There's nothing like a woman scorned. So there's that to look at. So just, kind of get your imagination going, right? Like, what are these different people? Margaret Thatcher, I would imagine, was the Queen of Swords.
Yeah, the Iron Lady.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Iron Lady, right? Even the element of metal, right? And just a bright woman and cut through the dross, right? Just to get there. Lady Diana, interesting person to look at. She was kind of she was benevolent, and worked, in different arenas and
Yeah.
with kids, and she was
The Queen of
lovely at
Hearts.
lovely at doing that. But she also had a very, very flaky side, right? A very difficult side that couldn't really get her grounded. So I would never put her as a queen of coins, and I wouldn't put her as a queen either. I think she would have always been this sort of princess energy, and yeah. So what would she be? Queen of Hearts, a princess of hearts, coins, swords, or cups. So we went
keep
to
talking
hearts.
about hearts, don't we?
Went to hearts, so I screwed my brain up. Cups, fire. It's interesting as I'm kind of tuning into what Lady Di's energy would be. It definitely wouldn't be the Queen of Swords, though she had some part of her that was very airy. So I kind of see her with all these different elements. The grounded, definitely not. So I would never call her the Queen of Coins. Yeah, most likely. Sorry, Princess of Coins. Most likely. Sorry, I'm concentrating so much. I'm not saying the words properly. It would be the Princess of Cups, right?
Cups, yeah.
She would have had a lot of wateriness. Though that air is really weird.
Yeah, and they even her memorial is like for water.
Oh, it is. Okay.
In one of the parks.
Yeah. But her elements were a little bit off. Like, if I look at her and I just see where all the elements are, you could see the fire would burn a little bit out of control and then go back down, which is interesting because if you have a lot of cups, you could keep your fire in control. Now I'm reading, without pulling cards, I'm doing this energetically as you are. But yeah, I think she would have had a lot of trouble with all of her elements. I think they were maybe because she was in a position where she needed to use all of her elements and they just weren't functioning. And, just sort of a broken princess of cups and really trying to develop them, but not being able to stand strong. I'm trying to think of some other people too. The Kardashians, are they princesses?
Are they the queens of bottoms?
Yeah, I think they're queens. They're definitely, maybe not all of them. I don't know them well enough. I just hear about them all the time. But I'd say they're quite, even if you watch them and they look like they're all over the place, I think they know exactly what they're doing.
They know exactly what they're doing. I mean, they're the empire building. Yeah.
Exactly. Empire, good word, empire building. So they're definitely queens. Maybe one of them, I don't know which one, maybe it's Kim, or I'm not familiar enough with them, but one of them would be an empress.
Yeah, someone must have instigated it all. Yeah.
Yeah. Which was that kid who decided, to follow dad's, coattails and use the whole OJ leaping board of popularity for the dad, and then move into this world of fame and use it really well. That's, you got to be put together. I mean, you could have fame take you, and then you just operate and it's not going very well. You could end up in drug abuse. I could think of poor Britney Spears, that young girl, just loved her so much, and then all the things that happened to her, and then tabloids and all this stuff,
and all of the stuff that's allegedly going on is bonkers.
Yeah, just terrible. There's this princess of fire, totally creative and fully taken advantage of in her youth, right? As she's developing sexually, that's a critical time in our lives. And then, of course, the fire goes out of control, and there's nobody there to ground her, anchor her, help her out, get her on the on a path to, yeah, sure, you're creative and you may never be able to deal with money. Instead of people taking advantage of her, somebody was there to support her. And that's, to me, it was always a shame that that occurred. Yeah, I hope she's doing well now. I don't know what's happening, but terrible times for that gal.
Mm.
Who else can we think of that could be fun to talk about?
Like the moment you say, my brain just forgets.
Yeah,
People exist. It's really interesting. I don't know.
Maybe Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau.
Yeah.
Right? He's definitely a prince. He's not a king. He's not even a good ruler. And I would say he's fire as well. The fire comes up and he's willy-nilly doing whatever without any thought process.
Yeah, it's like that angry outbursts energy I get from him. Not that I watch him that much, but yeah.
Yeah, it could feel like that.
It's
he
like
definitely subdues that.
Yeah.
I think he's more haphazard in so many ways, and there's sort of apparent. It's definitely a masqueraded veneer of compassion.
Yeah, yeah.
Because compassion,
yeah.
Today's day and age, I'm old now. Been through quite a bit, and it's fascinating to me to listen to young people. There's some young people out there. I'll give a shout out to Tim Cast. He's very popular, and I pray that he continues his success. I mean, what a kid! If he was my son, I'd just go, kid, good on you. You did really well, and may you continue to succeed. Anyhow, so people like that, are wonderful. I lost my train of thought.
No, you're talking about justice. Compassion, right? And I'm just trying to trail and give you a little history.
Yeah. Even though I watch this young man, I love it. I love hearing he's really, really smart kid, and love hearing everything. But sometimes I get into conversations and I just think, wow, I forget how young they are. They're brilliant. They're smart. The gang of them that are on the show, really smart. And they all have different intelligence, all the different people on the show. And, sometimes they just talk and I go, yeah, that's really great that they figured that out. But you're really young. You're really young. You just haven't gone through. And I just think of my grandparents looking at me going, you're really young. And there was this expression my grandma used to use, the Greek expression, where you were, you are now, I was.
Yeah.
And where I am now, you will be. And it always sounded like a little bit of a curse kind of thing, but I totally get it now. It's like you really don't know. And that's fascinating. But I love watching the evolution at the same time. But I also often feel like our wisdom shouldn't be lost of aged people, going into the phase of getting older, going into the crone is here for me, or it's coming, or and I think that shouldn't be lost. So, I think of the way we use compassion today. That's where I was. We use compassion today. In the 70s, it's probably earlier, and I think I had an example of earlier, but compassion was distorted a little bit. When we look at compassion, it's a heart energy. So if you're the Empress in the light, the light side of the Empress is that compassion is non-directional. So it may be really compassionate to tell someone exactly the way it is. Right? And as tarot readers, sometimes I curb my words, I do, which means I'm lying. If someone is, and maybe other tarot readers will, go shame on you. But if I'm talking to someone who comes to me often and, they're really hoping for a relationship and I'm really going to dash their spirits, I will mellow it. I'll mellow it down. I'm like, you know what? We can't predict the future. it's showing that the relationship's going to be on a rocky road, right? So what you have at your fingertips is you're the one who gets to make the choice all along. So even if I say you're going to break up with this person, when you get there, you don't have to break up. Don't break up with him. Stay with him or her or whatever, right? So I find it really interesting. I mean, obviously there are variations to that, but I found myself many times going, don't break up. It's you who's breaking up. It's you who's fed up. I'm doing this reading for you, and I can see where you're going, and you're going to a place where you're outgrowing this person, and you're going to leave. Don't stay. And inevitably they get to that point and they go, God, I can't believe it. I was going to go against the reading. I was going to stay no matter what. And I just couldn't. I just was there going, I can't continue this. Right. So sure, I can modify a few things because who the hell knows? You're reading cards. You're kind of looking at what's going to happen in the future. And we know we have choice all the time. So it doesn't mean it's going to happen. All right. That's fine. But there is this whole idea, when I was in my teens and I had this friend, she was, we were together all the time, as girls are, best friends. And in ways so different in that she was getting into political correctness and I didn't want to go in that direction. I didn't want my words to be tainted by some kind of untruth that I didn't think it was true. And her response to me was always, well, isn't it nice just to be nice to people? Just, why would you hurt people? And right away I felt hurt. So she's saying this to me, which is hurting me. And I'm like, don't you get it? We're going to get hurt. So what you're saying now is actually hurting me. The way I express myself, we're best friends, we're together all the time. And the way I express myself, being able to be honest, you're telling me I shouldn't do that and I'm hurting people by it. Well, you just hurt me. So now if you're telling me that your political correctness, your PC stuff is good for everybody, but for me, it's hurtful.
Yeah.
So now, what are we doing? You have no compassion for me, but I'm only supposed to have compassion for your idea, but you have none for me. So there I had a really difficult time, but over the years, it has brainwashed me, whether I like it or not. I've been brainwashed. I mean, I'm speaking as freely as I'm going to speak right now, because I don't know how much I could, be able to break through my own brainwashing. But I think it's truly important that we're able to have compassion, whether that is saying no or not. Because if I don't have compassion for myself, I don't ever believe you can have compassion for anyone else. And I've been challenged on that many times. If you don't love yourself, you can't love anyone. I've been challenged on that. They say that's just paying lip service. And I go, no, if you say you love me and you don't love yourself, my first question is, how the heck do you know if you love me, if you don't even know what it's like to be loved? I don't believe you. You're lying to me. Now, that's not a mental thing. That's a gut thing. Yep. Your gut goes, hey, I don't trust you. If you don't have an experience of compassion for yourself, then I don't buy your compassion for anyone else. And I can see you don't have this typical compassion, that you want to say no to me and you don't like what I'm saying. And I respect you. I will stop saying it in your presence, but we might lose this friendship, which we eventually did. Because I can't walk around constantly curtailing my words.
You can't vet your words every second of the day.
You cannot censor yourself all day long, or else you're not going to be able to think. And this show I was mentioning that I watch, I love to watch it because they use actual words and the meanings that come from my education from
Yeah.
the dictionaries of old, not these new,
Yeah.
convoluted dictionaries.
So many words, if you go back to the dictionaries from like 1890 or something, they've been completely changed. It's really fascinating.
Well, you could add words, you could, but usurping a word and giving it a completely new meaning, no,
Yeah.
make a new one.
Yeah, exactly.
There are other people in the world who are using this word, and it's got a definition. Don't do that. But add words, okay. I'm happy to hear that you add words. Add your own words, and they're added all the time.
Yeah,
No problem. But do not take a word, change its meaning, and then don't go around, okay, then that means I have to make a word for the old word. Why am I forced to make an old word? I'm not, you do the work and create a new word. We can keep this word in the vocabulary. We don't have to get rid of it, for God's sakes. It's so irrational. And the talk of compassion, this is what charges me up about. You have no compassion. You have no compassion for someone my age who's still, I'm not old, but why are you taking away my words and not giving me a new word for what it used to mean?
And the thing is, when you've used a word in a certain way for 30 or 40 years, it's really hard to deprogram it.
No,
It's
I
like
think I could deprogram
well, I personally struggle with that.
Yeah, no,
I can't unwind things. Like my brain will go to a word, and then I'm like, no, you're not allowed to use that word. Now you have to use this word, and I'm like,
and I'm brainwashed a lot faster than you. The problem with me is I've got to go two ways, and I don't know which word to use for the old one because we haven't made a new word for the old one. So now I'm like, I don't know what to say to you. If these two definitions are for the same word and they mean completely different things, we need a new word. Don't
I'd agree with that.
Don't make it up. Like, don't take the old words and usurp them. Make a new one. Happy as a pig in shit to learn a new word.
New words.
Very fun.
It's like YOLO and
right. There's so many different words out there that we're constantly learning. But I still want to use the old words as they were. And I want to speak honestly. Because what does happen, this is tricky. I didn't think of this before. What's really tricky is that if you add the definition and it doesn't mean what it used to mean, then I can't speak honestly because I've lost my word.
Yeah.
So if you're erasing words, this is so 1984, right? Not to be too cliche, but this is so 1984 where, you just take words and bits of history. Remember how his job was just to erase history. Oh no, that word's gone. Erase history. And that's to me terrible. But I know people who don't think it's terrible. They think it's just fine because it's compassionate. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. No. And I think what would be really fun is if you listen to George Carlin and all the usurping of words that have gone on, through the years. He makes a list of them in one of his stand-up comic skits. Really good. He starts with something like, we used to say shell shock. Then we said, I can't remember what we said anymore. And now it's PTSD.
Yeah.
But we went through many different terms for shell shock. Originally it was shell shock. And I think it's important to, now we lump all PTSD in one group.
Yeah, we don't distinguish.
Now, I could be reliving traumas from my childhood, but is my trauma the same as a war vet who's going through what we originally called shell shock and coming back and reliving those visuals? Sure, we relive them. I think all of us do. You relive stuff that went on, but grouping it together, I think, is not beneficial. Then
Because
we
then
all,
people that have had like trauma that isn't of that flavor, when they get labeled with PTSD, they might think it's as bad as that, and then it elevates it.
or even the
Confusing.
opposite, right? The opposite is that you're looking at someone who's, been through the war, watched the people dying, is, is completely traumatized by shooting someone in the head, and comes back and goes, maybe I shouldn't feel as bad as I feel because so and so looks fine. They have a job. They've got PTSD, but they're working and they can function. Maybe I shouldn't be. You see both sides of this spectrum, which can be terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. I hope people are enjoying the conversation. But to me, I think it's really important that we know what compassion is and that we understand that my opinions don't matter, by the way. I'm just expressing them. They're things that can always be discussed and reviewed, and we can always come up with new ideas. That's not the point. What is the point is heart energy has compassion. It's like going to your guru, and I think I mentioned it last time. You go to the guru, and you tell the guru, I so love you, and I think this is so wonderful. And he's like, okay, great. Now, get the hell out of here. Go off and live your own life, right? They don't say get the hell out of here, but I've seen, quite a few gurus just tell it like it is. One gal I was seeing, Sogyal Rinpoche, we were in a group of 300 people, and it was so gorgeous, this beautiful weekend. I'm blissed out. I'm just like, oh, this is so wonderful, and now I get to go into my life with this energy. And gal gets up and says, oh, quite frankly, excuse me, I'm trying to bring her energy up. I think you didn't give us enough. We didn't get enough of your time. And if you had seen my face, it was like, here I was blissed out. I thought I got so much out of this weekend, and, it's going to carry me through into my life, and I can continue this work in my life. And here's this woman saying I didn't get enough. So I thought, well, what is he going to say to this? And he just turned around, he said, I gave you everything I've got. There is nothing else. And what can you reply to that? I gave you everything. You want more, but there isn't any more. There's nothing left. And, that I think is so compassionate to himself. And it also answers the question directly, without, it's direct. And if you want more, well, maybe you need to choose someone else who's got the more that you need. I don't know about you, Eloise, but, in my work, in my years of work, which has been a really long time, I've likely habits, I always check, did some readings last week, looking at, different ways that I operate. And, it showed what came up for the reading, and it wasn't me doing the reading, it was someone else doing it for me, came up. And it was the Queen of Cups. And usually, whenever I've had that reading with the Queen of Cups, oh, you're very emotional, you're very nurturing, you're very loving. And she just went, this is about your generosity. And I was like, whoa, how did she pick that up? Of course, we know how. I just gave you a good description of how you picked that up, but she picked it up. She's like, this is about your generosity. And you need to think about this a bit. You're not putting any boundaries to it. So to me, if I didn't give everything plus, then I would feel like I hadn't done my job. But that causes a problem for me, because then I become tired. I become not tired. That's really, tired's just fine. Exhausted, drained, and end up in total, absolute, abject pain, right? So that's not very good. That's not compassionate. I'm an animal. That's like taking in, if I used a squirrel to do my readings and be interred, if I take that squirrel and I use it and I use it and I use it, so the poor thing's exhausted and in pain, and I have to put in its little Betty bye so it sleeps. Like, what the
most random example ever.
You don't have to be random. But I did that once. I know that crystals retain a lot of energy. And you can really feel gut brain what that crystal wants to do or doesn't want to do. So I was using this crystal once, a beautiful thin wand. I love this crystal, and I'm using it. The client leaves, and I've got another client, and I take the crystal, and as I'm going to the client, I just feel this, no way.
No.
And I'm like, what do you mean no? I just get this like direct communication to my brain. I'm not a crazy cuckoo bird like you are. I was like, what? You can go and work like this. I literally heard this, like, you can go and work like this. You can work like a crazy. I don't want to. Put me down. What did I do?
You used it.
I said, one more session. So I did the session, put the crystal up in its little spot, continued my work, turn around, and it's cracked in half. It's like, you're not going to do it? Well, I'll do it for you. Think about it. Like that's probably in the early 2000s that happened. And I still haven't learned from the message of that crystal. I'll still go overboard.
One more, just one more.
One more. So yeah, compassion is such a huge topic, and it needs to be non-directional, no goal. Yeah. Like, my pathological compassion, because the dark side, let's say, of the Queen of Cups is, yes, she has compassion, but if she's a true Queen of Cups, she's going to say, stop. Like, I'm not giving you any more. That's enough. And I don't know how many times people have told me they've gone to their gurus and they weren't, they don't care about me. I went up and asked them for this and that, and they said no. And they're just not caring. So I'm giving up on this guru. It's like, oh my God, really? Wow. Really? This is a human being. You can't just get this human being to do whatever trick you want them to do. And
dance for me.
Exactly. Well, to be really honest, when I was a tarot reader, people would come in and they have these tarot reader in the public, I should say. I'm still a tarot reader, but I mean in the public eye. You're in a shop and you're working. When I was a young girl, that's how I started. And people would come in with this idea that everything. So, that's when I would give the answer. Well, if I knew everything, I'd get the lotto numbers and I wouldn't be sitting here in this dusty, dirty place and talking to you for like, $20. So that was the answer I would give. But sometimes I would get really angry because you're sitting there doing the work and people would come in and just ask you just about anything. Like, speak to my dead grandmother. Here's a piece of jewelry. I'm a tarot reader, just because I could do these things. And I said, look, you're here for a tarot reading. You've paid for it. I'm happy to
feed your call.
Give you my office number and we can work with different things. I could work with different things. It's not $20. I'm charging a lot more than. I'm not doing that for $20. Well, why don't you do it here? And I said, because I'm a tarot reader here. I'm not a prostitute. You can't bend me over and do whatever you want with me. No. And I found it so interesting, the disrespect.
Yeah.
Now, whether that's for tarot readers in general, I don't know. Or it's just my idiocracy. Like my own, because the Queen of Cups had come up so often for me and there was pathology there, that could have been my energy that says, I'll give anything, right? So I like to give as much as possible, but, I will hurt myself in the process. So been through a lot of lessons, right?
Yeah.
Learn from the wisdom of the woman going into the crone years, right? This is, take advantage of the crone, right? We've been, when I was in my 40s, It's like, okay, some stuff. When I was in my 50s, some stuff. But now that I'm in my 60s, I'm like, oh my God, it's the first time all of a sudden youth is youth. Whereas before I could still mix it up. That was still part of it. Even in certain conditions, people didn't know I was in my 50s. They would say, oh, you look like you're like 38. And I'd be like, oh, okay. Now you don't mistake it. Now you don't turn around and go, she's in her 30s or 40s. No.
Yeah.
You see the fine lines. You she's not this young chicken in any way. So maybe that's not so much the difference, but it has helped or supported the acknowledgement of all of the things I've gone through, and the pondering and the watching young people and seeing how they act through life. Now, that doesn't mean you can't get someone in their 60s or 70s who are still the princess, right? You can still be the princess in later life. Of course you can. But someone like me who's on that path to really embody, whatever wisdom I've come to, whatever little bits and pieces, not, tons. I'm still, on the path of learning. But you can't reject that there is some wisdom you've gone through, just like my granny. My granny went through her times, and now her words ring in my head. I'm like, wow, it means a lot more now than it did then. Where you are now, I've been, and where I am, you will be. I can really see it now going, yeah, there is a then. Whereas before, it didn't feel like there was a then. Even I'd even say 3 years ago. It wasn't like there was a then. Like, I can remember things, but there wasn't a then. Now I see it as a then. Does that make sense? Like I see my youth now more encapsulated, whereas before I could see myself, doing all those things that I did. Or now, no, I don't see those things. I don't see I would want to do any of those things. Whereas, 10 years ago, it's like, oh, let me go to this island and go do this and that. Now it's like, no, I have no interest. So it really is another person.
Yeah.
It's really a separate individual. Maybe that helps make sense out of it.
Yeah, anyway. That does make sense. You've got the child, the adult, and then this.
Exactly. And we have a really long adult phase that is, a child, like, once your brain finishes developing at 23, that begins the adulthood journey, which is a massive part of life. You're setting yourself up for the rest of your life, whether it's education or business or finances. And then you can still change as you go along. Of course you can. I changed a million times as I went through all these things. But, you're stronger, you've got all this energy. Later on, it's all, who cares? Like, I don't want to start building something. I'm working off springboarding off of what I already know. I'm not, if I wanted to go be a doctor, which I've often dreamed of, especially in my 50s, I'm like, maybe I should go to medical school. Now, I don't throw it off the
table,
but I have some interesting things in my mind, like writing and, continuing our work together, and even just slowing down and smelling the cappuccino, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, we'll talk more next week. We'll see what there's a little bit of an interesting video. So I must go because a client is on the
yes.
on the rise here. Yeah, it's a little long. All right. Bye, sweetie.
Okay. Bye. Take care, everyone.
Have a good couple of weeks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.